Good evening, and I am back with a long time needed review, a post-fight review of Mark Hunt vs. Paul Gallen, a Sydney fight that happened. It was a heavyweight fight, I'm assuming, because both guys tipped in over 100 kilos. Mark Hunt, the former UFC MMA kickboxer, also came in at 127 kilos. Now, in full disclosure, I didn't actually watch the fight. I saw it on YouTube, so go ahead and find it on YouTube if you can before it gets taken down. But I actually read some Apple News articles that, spoiler alert, told me about the results. Now, obviously I wanted to watch the fight. I was out running and then I walked the dog. I had it slated in also. I was going to buy the main event on KO app, but I totally forgot about it, even though I'd watched all the press and all the media and all the pre-coverage, like the weigh-in, the pre-fight interviews, and all the kerfuffle, the pushing and the hold me back, and throw the left hook at the weigh-in, all that sort of drama. I watched all that. It was very entertaining. And there was the storyline too of Paul Gallen. He used to be an amazing rugby league player. Obviously, he's had 11 fights in boxing. Mark Hunt, coming from the UFC, being a kickboxer, being a career fighter, going into boxing and earning a career, not a career, I'm not sure if it's a career high, but a pretty nice payday of $750,000. So that was the storyline going in. Now, reading these news articles, some were saying that Mark Hunt got robbed, and also it was a terrible fight. I won't try and swear because I've shot this video multiple times and I've had to hold back on my swearing. But going into watching this fight, I've already got the prejudice that it's going to be a terrible fight, maybe a boring fight. Also, maybe there's going to be a robbery. And I don't like, as I might have said, I don't like watching robberies. I just find it terrible both fighters are going in there, risking their lives, going through training, possibly not even seeing their family while they go away on camp, and for someone to get robbed, it's just criminal, to be honest with you. So the fight starts, and spoiler alert, I scored the fight 4-2 for Paul Gallen, and I couldn't find any results. Funnily enough, through all of these articles, these sports articles, none of them actually came up with a scorecard, but they clearly showed that Paul Gallen won. So I did give Mark Hunt the very last round, and maybe a round where I think it was the second round. So what I saw amazing head and foot movement from Paul Gallen. I'd never seen any of his fights. I'd seen highlights. There's also another rugby league player called Sonny Bill Williams. I watched a couple of his fights too, just this week, just out of interest, because I wanted to catch up. It's fairly nostalgic. So the crowd, I'll just touch on the crowd during this sports event for Paul Gallen and Mark Hunt. It was packed to the rafters. It was sardines. You could tell there was no social distancing going on. It looked great. The atmosphere was great. You had the legend Jeff Fennick commentating, and it just shows you that Australia still has a love affair with boxing. It's always been here. Yes, other sports like the MMA and the UFC have taken some attention as well, and probably going forward they'll take even more attention. But there's such a deep-seated history, like with boxing in Australia. You have Tim Tszyu, who is Costa Tszyu's son, fighting on the undercard. There was amazing undercard fights on this card, and also you had the great Jeff Fennick commentating. You also have a whole lot of footballers that love to go over and cross over into boxing, and it's just a staple of their training as well. When they train for conditioning in rugby league, they always get on the boxing gloves and they do some pad work as well. So yeah, it was great to see that. But again, Paul Gallen has amazing head movement. I was very, very, very surprised that he was able to bob and weave, and when he was weaving, he kept his hands up. And even though the commentator, not Jeff Fennick, but the other commentator was hyping up every single punch that Mark Hunt threw, it was clipping Paul Gallen on the gloves. Now, there was some instances where Mark Hunt did actually land heavy. Now he landed heavy, and Paul Gallen got clipped, and he'd stumble, and you could tell he was visibly hurt. Now, he did that in the third round, possibly in the fourth round. I still gave it to Paul Gallen because, yes, you can someone win in boxing if they manage to clip and hurt someone twice? They have two good moments in a 3-minute round when the other fighter, so Mark Hunt clipped Paul Gallen twice in maybe round 3, and he stumbled and he looked hurt. Paul Gallen recollected himself. He started clinching, and then he actually dominated through the rest of the fight. He got Mark Hunt into a corner, wouldn't let him out, was throwing and landing hooks and uppercuts for the remainder of the round. So does the two punches that hurt Paul Gallen negate all the rest of the blue collar work that Paul Gallen did against Mark Hunt throughout the whole round? I don't think so. Because who would you rather be? Would you rather be the guy that gets hurt twice, recovers, or would you rather be the guy that throws and hurts the other guy, but then you get dominated for the whole round and you get gassed out and puffed out and get clipped several times? Not as hard and clean, but you're getting hit by close uppercuts and hooks on the ropes. So I gave those rounds, even though there was plenty of rounds where Mark Hunt did actually hurt and stumble and almost close the show. Now, these guys were throwing haymakers. It was an entertaining fight. I've got to be honest. It was one of the more entertaining fights I've seen. For me, it was more entertaining than the Anthony Joshua fight versus Pulev. It was more entertaining than the actual Errol Spence fight versus Danny Garcia. It was just it was a shite show. Just swore again. I'm not going to restart this video. But it was a scrappy show, but it had that drama like a Canelo Alvarez fight where every single punch could end and both fighters could have easily ended each other's night. They were both throwing, they were getting, well, you could tell Mark Hunt was a career fighter. He was just so fluid. He knew how to throw straight punches. He knew how to lean into his punches. It's unfortunate that maybe he started gassing out. I reckon he would have been an amazing boxing fighter if he stayed his whole career, collecting $750,000 paychecks for each fight minimum. He is such an amazing puncher. He looks fluid, he looks clean. He kind of reminds me of a James Toney when he throws punches. He doesn't look awkward at all. And obviously, because he started as a kickboxer, he knows, he has that muscle memory where Paul Gallen, even though he's had more boxing fights, per se, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure how many boxing fights Mark Hunt's had, but he kind of looks a lot more awkward throwing punches than Mark Hunt. Even though Mark Hunt was a career kickboxer, so he's only using half of his kickboxing, but he still looked more fluid when he threw punches. It was just a shame that he seemed to have gassed out. And also, he wasn't throwing in combination. He was looking for the 1-2. And he was throwing some hooks as well. He did land on Paul Gallen with some decent hooks that obviously hurt him as well. But it was a good fight, to be honest with you. I gave Paul Gallen, as I said, 4 rounds to 2. It could have been, easily a draw. If you give Paul Gallen, obviously, if you give Mark Hunt 1, it's 3-3. But I gave it 4-2. Don't know how wide but it was a 6-round fight. It's very hard to try and score that type of fight. And you'll see that a lot more of these fights may happen. You already have Paul Gallen calling out another UFC fighter, Robert Whittaker. And he was saying that Robert Whittaker is pricing himself out. Now, I'm not sure if Robert Whittaker has earned $750K. I don't know if that's the purse that they have offered him. But I would fight anyone. I would fight Mike Tyson for $750,000. So I think that's in the cards. But again, great fight. It would have been just amazing to see if Mark Hunt was a career boxer, or maybe if he stopped his UFC career earlier and started just boxing from maybe age 30. He would have had a world title. He looks fluid. His muscle memory is there. Paul Gallen surprisingly has amazing head movement. He's also got great footwork. He's able to go in and out, dart in and out, and go side to side. Now, the one thing that was weird was that when Paul Gallen would get hurt, Mark Hunt would land, and Mark Hunt would have Paul Gallen in the corners or on the ropes. He didn't continue any combinations or continue any punishment. Mark Hunt would just back off, and it was very odd to me. And it was like he was afraid of being turned around and then sat onto the ropes himself. So he immediately came out back into the center. And it's probably a good strategy because he was in that mid to long range distance where he could get his 1-2 off. And he was probably afraid of smothering. So I was seeing a lot of smothering from him. He was throwing the 1-2, but when they came together, he would smother his punches, and obviously that's when Paul Gallen had his best chance and safest chance. He was safe, close distance. You could tell that also Paul Gallen had some amazing stamina. I'm not sure if it came from his athletic career as a rugby league fighter, but he threw punches non-stop, in my opinion, for a lot of rounds. Like, he did not look unfit. He was throwing. The last round for both fighters, I gave it to Mark Hunt, but it was the most probably entertaining round of them all. The last round, they both got sloppy. They both were missing huge haymakers that could have landed and ended the whole night for either of them. But Paul Gallen has a decent chin. He held up, his legs buckled, but he didn't go down. And as you all know, heavyweight boxing, everyone should be going down because, you know, the chin is only so big. Yet these guys, their bodies can be bigger and bigger and bigger, and unlimited weight. There's an unlimited weight limit. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Again, entertaining fight. I'm going to go back now and watch the undercards. I may release a couple of my reviews of the Errol Spence fight and the Anthony Joshua fight. I think Anthony Joshua versus Pulev was an entertaining fight. I watched that live on the DAZN app. We actually have DAZN in Australia now, but that was an entertaining fight. Obviously, Anthony Joshua looked impressive. He looked almost a mixture of a boxer / an aggressive puncher. So that's what you want to see. You want to see that coming into the Tyson Fury fight. Now, if Tyson Fury actually has now changed his game to become a come forward aggressive fighter, and we have Anthony Joshua coming forward more often, it's going to be a great fight. So hopefully that gets made soon. But yeah, I'll come back and I'll upload another video on that. So that was all. I just wanted to upload that. I think Mark Hunt should have some more boxing matches because he looked fluid. He looked fluid. He looks a bit heavy to be throwing kicks at his age, but he looks like a decent puncher, a natural puncher. And I think Paul Gallen is going to have some more fights, and just he's going to keep collecting checks. I think Paul Gallen is donating a portion. One of these fighters is donating a portion of their purse to charity, so that's a good cause. But anyway, I will catch you on the next one. Peace and offense.